dragons, spirits, ancient histories that are yet to be discovered, pacts with gods, and a goat. If you like any of those things, you should probably come check out the Broadswords. We are a non-binary and all-women podcast that play a little bit of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And let me tell you, there are not a lot of dice that are rolled, but there are a lot of shenanigans to be had. You can find us at thebroadswords.com or listen to us wherever your podcasts are cast.
You know things, I know some too. Sit right down, the femsplain them to you. If there's a thing you want to explain, these two feminists can entertain. Nerdy stuff, sexy stuff, so much to know. Tune in for the Femsplain Show.
Femsplain! Do you find that I make like a lot of drinking noises on the podcast?
I do not find that.
Okay. Sometimes I hear them when I'm listening to it and I'm like, wow, how many did you edit out that like that one snuck through?
I don't notice that very much, actually. So if you're noticing it, that's you noticing it. I don't notice it, but I do make a lot of drinking sounds too.
No, you don't.
I do.
Why are you making it like a contest? It's not about you.
I know.
It's about the listeners.
Listeners, if you hear us making lots of drinking sounds on the podcast, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear about it.
No. But I think that the most appropriate time of day to be drinking is the morning.
Yes. And that's what we're doing. Drinking in the morning.
Drinking in the evening.
Drinking at supper time.
Yeah.
When you're drinking with a bagel.
Oh, I was going to drink on a bagel.
You can drink anytime. Welcome to Femsplained.
Yes. Welcome to a truly earth-shattering, unprecedented 100th episode of Femsplained.
Yeah. I don't know what episode it is.
In
but
honor of our 100th episode, we decided to be together.
We are together for this most special 100th episode. In person, sharing a microphone.
It's the first time in the history of the podcast that we've
first time
been in the same state.
Some podcasts were in person and then split up during the pandemic.
Yep.
But we see this coming a mile away.
Yep.
We're going to be remote from the start.
Mm-hmm.
But today,
we are not remote.
We're not remote. We're in person. I'm looking at Avalon's Macintosh computer right now.
Judgmentally.
I am not. I miss
were
having
before.
a Mac. Well, yeah.
It's not that dirty.
It's fine. So for this in-person episode, we decided to have an in-person topic, and I'm very excited about it. But first...
What is an in-person topic?
Don't question.
It's patty cake. We're playing patty cake the whole time. It's our first tactile topic.
Yeah, this is a visual medium now.
Yes.
Avalon, do you want to go first with nerd culture?
Never. And I like that you finally care about that.
Well, then I'll go first. Nerd culture has done some cool stuff for me lately. Number one, last night I got to play a game of 10 Candles for the first time with guess who? Avalon and Mr. Mansplain Minute himself, Francis, who is just downstairs relearning the Mansplain Minute song.
So that he can perform it live.
Yes.
We'll see if that happens.
So that really filled my
Well,
cup.
that was mine.
That can be yours too.
Okay.
I also went to a very cool little comic book shop here in Oregon the other day, and I got a copy of Kids on Brooms, which I'm very excited about. It's my very first time owning any of the Kids Do Stuff systems, and I'm really looking forward to playing it.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you, Avalon?
Well, I played that game. I rewatched Fellowship of the Rings extended version, which was, several nights of my life.
Yeah.
You Flew Here, which I think is a tribute to nerd culture because nerds invented airplanes.
Yes. I did trust a lot of nerds throughout history to get on that airplane.
It's true. Oh, and I went to a new comic book store in town. You didn't come though.
I did not come.
No.
I was there.
No,
was
you
I
weren't.
not? No?
You on drugs? No.
I might have been on drugs.
You went to a game store. You didn't go to a comic book store.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, it was pretty cool. Well, Nerd Culture has done something for all of you, and that has been the continuation of the Femsplain podcast. So congratulations, listeners.
I need you to know that we are not only sharing a microphone, but a chair.
Because
I don't know how sustainable it is.
not very. If we had to record the podcast this way the whole time, it probably would not have continued.
No, it would not have.
Well, before we jump into our very important in-person topic, as stated, we should maybe bring a man in here. Do we want to do that? See if he can remember the song.
I bet he can.
1, 2, 3. In a mansplain minute, everything's explained in a mansplain minute. Tell the ladies what to say in a mansplain minute. Everything's explained in a mansplain minute. Tell the ladies what to say in a mansplain minute.
Yay!
Putting 1 minute on the man watch. Gender. Now, as the finest example of cis-malery that exists, I am the perfect guest to have been brought in to guest star the episode about gender. And here's what I know about it. When Diana comes to visit and they want a beer, he can choose from one of 3 glasses. If he's feeling femme, tulip glass. If she's feeling a little bit more mask, number 1 dad glass. And if they're feeling a little non-binary, that would be the Metal Souvenir Seafood Chowder Festival cup that we purchased from the soda stand at the Charleston Seafood Festival for $30. Unlimited soda. Which honestly, you can't drink that much soda in a day. So maybe not the soundest financial choice. But those are the 3 genders. Tulip glass, number 1 dad glass, Metal Souvenir $30 Seafood Charleston Festival glass mug. Metal. And this has been your Mansplain Minute.
Woo! Wow,
I can't wait for all of those takes.
in the podcast. Those will be exclusive on Patreon, the behind-the-scenes edition of that live recorded Mansplain Minute. You take your time. You climb on in here.
Now we have 2 chairs.
Woo!
Woo.
That was a hoot and a holler.
You're right.
Yeah, it really made me happy.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we wanted to talk about gender, identity, presentation, all sorts of things like that. I think because from basically the moment I landed here, we started talking about it naturally because I think since the last time we saw each other in person, which was ages ago now.
My wedding.
Yeah. Lots has changed about that for both of us. And it's just nice to talk about it, but it would be even nicer to share with everybody, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had some, I think, really positive conversations in what feels like a very safe space. And so it felt like a good time to then bring those little fledgling baby bird conversations to a very unsafe place.
Yeah.
A permanent recording for everyone to listen to and take out of context.
Yes.
For all of time.
Great. I am looking forward to all of your opinions.
Yes.
I don't know where I want to start with this. I guess because I think a lot of people over the span of quarantine have come to new realizations about gender identity and presentation. I'm not Not alone in that, I know that much. But I think that exploration didn't manifest itself like out of the blue in quarantine. It just kind of became more
There's a fly, sorry.
more easily defined. If that makes sense. I would love to hear. I feel like I've rattled a lot about mine, but I'd love to hear like some of your thoughts or hear where you're coming from so that I know where we're going.
You're talking to me.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking to the listeners.
Listeners, please, we'll wait.
We're just gonna keep it rolling. So here's where I'm gonna start. And if it's sidetracking your question, it's not intentional.
Okay.
But the reason the gender conversation, like, that I brought it up initially with you after I picked you up from the airport was because in our recent episode, the dating sim episode,
Oh, yes.
which was
right.
2 episodes ago,
Yes.
I started a thought experiment about like what you would be like as a boyfriend. And I felt concerned when I was listening back to it that me phrasing that question refused to acknowledge and invalidated the fact that you are a boyfriend.
Right. Well, I know that you feel that way, but I did not feel that way by that conversation.
Well, I appreciate it.
But I do agree that conversation is probably the first time we've ever like talked about anything like that on the podcast, and it just sort of came up that way.
Yeah. And like for me it was okay, so then I'm just trying to rehash the conversation that we had organically, and it's not going to be as smooth. But for me, I thought it was really interesting once I gave myself like a little bit of slack, cut myself a little bit of slack for that gaffe. It was interesting to me that I think we both on paper have similar identity terminologies,
Yeah.
but that the idea of ourselves in the context of being a boyfriend felt so different.
Yeah.
And I thought like, oh shit, that means I'm not queer enough. But then we talked about it more,
Yeah.
and that's not what we decided.
I think that it's very interesting that, as with many queer journeys, you at first gave yourself some slack and then started to judge yourself more for a different reason.
Yes.
Which is very fitting. I think it's kind of beautiful how like two people can feel and consider themselves to be outside the gender binary in vastly different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it speaks to the fact that non-binary as a term is really just an umbrella for all sorts of feelings and ideas that just don't fit neatly in the boxes that we have to fit ourselves in. And so it covers so many different, so much of a variety of feelings. And when you had first asked the question, like, what kind of boyfriend would you be? Like, I did think about it to consider if I did have different feelings about, because there are different, like, people that I know who, when they're feeling more, like, masculine or more femme or whatever, and they present different or they feel different on those days. But at any given time, I really feel like they all can apply to me, which I don't think is always the case for everybody. So I did kind of provoke some, like, thought on, like, I've heard the same thing in reference to some people who are under the bisexual umbrella, where their attraction to men feels different than their attraction to women, and for some people, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And like, I think the same thing can apply to how you see your different gender identities and expressions. And I think for me, the words don't like evoke different feelings in me all the time, which is something that is new to me, which is going to lead me down another tangent if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So I, like, months ago, quietly, because I don't like I have never felt comfortable like making an announcement about any of these things because they feel so new and in flux and like constantly evolving, and I don't know if there's like a stop on this train. So I haven't made any sort of like grandiose declaration or anything like that, but I did quietly start slipping in the usage of she, he, and they pronouns a while back. I noticed that people who were like acknowledging that in a good effort were really hyper focused on they and he and left she like completely behind. And I realized that I didn't love that because I do feel very much equally connected to that identity as well. And so I've like learned that over this course, like they was very useful in like giving me space to like think about it. But the more that people avoided she and like threw that out for me, the more I was like, no, I like feel all of this. I don't want any part of it to be gone, you know? And that was kind of an interesting discovery for me where I feel comfortable saying that now. Like, all of these are good.
I love that because I feel like I'm messing up every time I say she. And
no,
I don't know why.
I think that for a lot of people who are coming out as non-binary, you really do want the validation that you are separate from your gender assigned at birth. And so it probably does feel more validating for a lot of people to have that be like dismissed at least for a while. But and that's not to say for a while I didn't feel pretty cozy there, but in kind of in the same way where I don't like the idea of tossing the name of this podcast out. Like, you know, like I do still feel very connected to that part of me. I still feel very connected to the ways in which it has shaped like all of my life. So I don't want to get rid of it, but that doesn't mean that like for other people that they shouldn't want that. But yeah, just for me personally, I like them both. I like them all.
Do you like them both or do you like them all? Because you tweeted about that the other day.
Yeah.
And I did not relate to it.
So
there's another time that I was like, my queerness is not the same as your queerness.
It's not. So for they, I don't feel anything. It feels very fine to me. I genuinely, I feel more, I think that the word that, if there is a word that, you know, closely describes me that I've heard of, it's probably gender fluid. Yeah. And that I feel very closely aligned with both masc and femme, and they is fine, very neutral. It doesn't like, I'm never gonna feel like identified in that word, but it's fine.
That's interesting. So I have also felt really connected with the term gender fluid, but so my interpretation of what you're saying, and please correct me, is that you are occupying all genders at once.
Yeah.
Comfortably and like confidently.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas I would say that I feel like I don't have any gender and am like this amorphous genderless blob who enjoys like putting on gendered hats sometimes.
Love
but
that.
Feel like it's completely superficial, like play acting, like it's
love
just for
that.
fun. So to me, like, I've used gender fluid for myself, thinking that it meant like how I'm slipping in and out of like almost like costumed gender, but like foundationally there is not gender there.
That's awesome.
So
and
I feel like
that.
you sincerely occupying both genders like makes me like feel like clammy, because it's like those are both fake things and I don't understand how you are like really in them.
fascinating to me. I love that, and I love the idea of being able to put them on as hats. But like, so I have done some like soul searching and some playing around as well, in terms of like, dressing up in different ways and things like that. And like, even when I do like dress quote unquote mask, like I will often like put claws on and have big makeup on and stuff like that. And like I don't feel like at any point am I out of one and into another.
Sure.
Like, I was also thinking about like, there are a lot of AFAB non-binary people who seek out top surgery, and I thought into that for a bit, and I think my boobs are very handsome. So I've decided that they don't like flip that switch negatively for me.
That's great.
Which for a time I thought maybe made it so that I was not really feeling this genuinely enough, like, but then I realized that we're all so goddamn critical of ourselves for no fucking reason.
Well, I will say that like having like a lot of breast tissue has probably steered and stalled my gender journey more than anything else.
I bet.
Yeah.
It's
So I can totally so I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of it has to do, with all of the different things that society has gendered about us. And that's one of the ones that gets the royal treatment by society. It's pretty hard to avoid the perception that's there.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of a disclaimer we did at the top of the episode, but I do want to clarify that like anything that we are grappling with personally, or like we turn inwardly, like, me feeling invalidated or like some kind of, dysphoria about boobs, does not mean that I think that people out there who have boobs should be feeling those things or are invalidated. This is entirely self-directed.
Yeah. And if your boobs do not make you feel like you are handsome, that is also okay.
Yeah.
So like, these are all very weird, different interpretations of all these feelings that we're just talking about how they manifest for us.
I don't know that we needed to say that, but I do feel like
just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case. I wonder, so I've talked about this in like solo spaces. Like I've talked about this on like my TikTok before, and I don't know if we've talked about it before. But what role do you think like the span of quarantine played in your journey?
Well, I mean, so my quarantine's weird, right? Because I spent the whole time like mothering, which is a word that I would use to identify. I gave birth. I, have breastfed the whole time. And so I've had no excuse to perform gender externally.
Yeah.
Or leave the house or whatever. But I also think that, once again, for me specifically, the experience of like mothering a baby for the first year of their life has felt like has been something that makes me feel like in touch with feminine energy in myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, logistically, like your boobs are bigger because you're lactating, and like there's just like a lot happening hormonally, and so
sure.
I don't necessarily know that quarantine has made me feel more queer. But I think that I have spent this time with a lot more like queer community on the internet.
Yeah.
And so like it feels like the people that I quote unquote surround myself with are very queer, and so it has given me the space to self-identify.
Space and language.
Yeah, exactly. And just sort of made it more of a priority for me to claim that, because I don't know, I've spent my life with a lot of like internalized biphobia, and depending on who my romantic partner is, it will completely change whether or not I feel like I even belong in spaces, and
Sure.
and it's so that part's been nice.
Yeah.
And again, like gender and sexuality, not the same thing, but
No, but I think
It
that
gets a little rough.
there are some feelings that feel very similar to me in the non-binary journey as the coming
Bisexual.
to terms with being bisexual because of that duality
I agree.
feeling
Yeah.
there. I think that, the am I enough of this
Mhm.
because I lean this way or that way, if I'm dating too many men, am I
Yeah.
still bisexual?
Yeah.
If I'm wearing too much makeup, am I still non-binary? Am
Mhm.
I, if I'm too comfortable with my boobs, am I still non-binary?
Yeah.
It's like there are all of these questions that come up that sound so similar to the echoes of my
I
past.
agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how the journey has, I guess, impacted me for quarantine.
Cool.
But what about you?
I think, first of all, I love that you shared that, because I think that is something that probably a lot of people will encounter at some point. There are a lot of non-binary people who will at some point or have at some point given birth, and I think it's still,
Yeah.
important to know that doesn't invalidate those feelings, and not feeling more in touch with femininity, if you do, doesn't
Mhm.
negate like that
Yeah.
you also feel those,
I think
those
I
feelings.
also, and this again is like a truly personal to me thing, but like growing up, like the people who I could count on for like nurturing and acceptance and like feeling like loved were women.
Right.
And so I do associate like nurturing energy with
feminine
femininity.
energy, yeah.
And that does not need to be the case. That's just my unfortunate experience. But like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that gets wrapped up in that a little bit for me as well.
Sure, yeah. For me, I didn't do anything major over quarantine besides, just working and stuff, but I did stay inside pretty explicitly for, I want to say about about 9 months straight before anything happened outside of my home. And I realized how much of my like gender identity was wrapped up in how I was being perceived by other people. And being perceived like every day by specifically by men often. And the big changing point was that I think the first time I like left the house for something other than work, so like when I was leaving to go to the hospital during quarantine, I was going in 2 pairs of scrubs and a shield and a mask and stuff, so I was really bundled up. The first time I left the house to not go to work, I had to go, I don't remember, I think it was the first time I went to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
So it was months and months later, and it was summertime at this point, and I was wearing like just a t-shirt
Yeah.
and shorts, and I swear to you, it was the second I walked out of the house that a guy in a truck like stopped to try to talk to me, and I had this like brain click where I truly did not understand why he was doing this. Like I was just like, because for the last like 9 months, like I have envisioned myself as like this gender amorphous like thing.
Yeah.
Like why what are you seeing?
Right.
I don't understand what you are seeing here. And then I guess I just realized that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I present as. Like, there are gonna be these people, and they're gonna see what they see, and they're gonna do this. And it made me mad. It made me angry. It made me full of rage. It made me want to throw up. But then it made me just go, you know what? Like, that's just it. I don't care what they see. Like, I feel the way that I feel, and that's it. And I don't know. I just felt like I needed to reject whatever it is that they see and put it away.
Yeah.
But that's not to say in the past I've wanted to be like, fuck men for seeing me as this. So I want to cover everything up. But I guess I kind of don't want that anymore. Not that I don't want them to stop fucking looking at me. But I just want to be okay with what I look like, and to know that it doesn't matter what they see, that it's still that what they see isn't real.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. I don't think I'm there. I think that, like, the emotional fortitude it takes to, like, really for it to be more about you than about the way you're perceived. I don't think that I'm there.
Yeah, it's not easy. They're loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah. I was talking to someone about this the other day. But I have this, like, memory in my sophomore year of high school that I was in my aunt's wedding and I had to get fitted for a bridesmaid's dress that was strapless.
Yeah.
And the woman who was measuring my cup size in the fitting room at Dillard's department store in Tennessee told me I was a D cup, and I just started weeping. And she got, like, really freaked out with me and was like, I don't understand what the problem is. And I heard her, she left the dressing room and, like, went, and I heard her whisper to my aunt that I must be a real tomboy, which, like, was clearly coded as lesbian, which, like, really also upset me at the time. But really, like, I just overwhelmingly, like, felt so betrayed by my body when I hit puberty. As I hit puberty late, I was a year younger than all of, like, my classmates, and I hit it fairly late. So, like, all of my peers, like, their bodies were kind of, like, getting set up. Like, you know, like, everybody had been on their period forever. You know, everybody, like, had curves, and I didn't. And I really thought that's what I was going to look like, and I loved that about myself. My mom is, like, very, like, kind of skinny, straight up and down, and, like, so I thought that that's just what I was going to look like. And yeah, it wasn't probably until my junior or senior year that I really started getting curvy. Late. And I just felt like,
yeah, you're, like, pretty set in your mind.
Betrayed. Absolutely betrayed by my body. And, like, so I was wearing, like, my A or B cup training bras. Like, I refused to get a new bra forever. And, like, a sports bra and, like, a camisole and a long sleeve shirt and a short sleeve shirt and a hoodie. And I was binding.
Yeah,
but this is, like, it was.
You were. That's exactly what you're doing.
For ages and ages. And, like, my idealized version of myself and my, like, sense of style, even going into college, was, like, I always wanted to wear, like, really crisp button-down shirts that, like, I could keep a bunch of buttons up top, like, open, and it would be, like, there would be an inoffensive, like, lack of cleavage. You know, like, that was just, like,
space there.
That empty space was, like, my idealized version of myself. And I think it wasn't until I was a little bit into college and I started getting, like, some positive feedback that people were finding me attractive that I was just like, oh, okay, well, like, that feels nice. And, like, the thing that people seem to like is when I'm a little more femme. So, like, you know, it just kind of is a cycle.
Right.
But it was just really funny how, like, I put away my experience with puberty until the last couple of years and was like, oh, honey.
Right.
And, like, how hard it was to relate to other people my age, like, complaining about having boobs and all that, like, and the total lack of recognition of that from, like, any of my contemporaries at the time.
Yeah. I remember I've been remembering lots of those things, and I've told you a little bit about this, but, like, I've been remembering, like, moments where like that validate that this isn't a totally new thing.
Right.
That this is something that's definitely predated this. You just didn't have like the space or the language or
Yeah.
both to like accommodate it.
Yeah.
Mine was never about my boobs, but like I remember I had a haircut in college that was a straight up bowl cut that I let my friend Maddie give to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had a cap on backwards. So there was just a little tuft of bangs like sticking out the front. And I looked like such a boy. And I loved it. And I commented on it. And my friend Matt, I love him, very defensively of me.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I look like a boy right now. And he was just like, no, it's just because of the hat. If you turn the hat around, you'll look beautiful.
Yeah.
And I crushed, like little bit crushed in my
Yeah.
heart but so well natured,
Yeah.
so good hearted. Another one was I was hooking up with this couple who I used to have a little situationship with. And they were also just so good natured, so wanting to make sure I felt good and attractive. And I had been working out a lot at this time. I had been rock climbing a lot. I was in great shape, but the rock climbing specifically had given me like very veiny, muscular hands. And I was loving it. I was like really loving how like masculine my hands looked. And we had some drinks that night, and I like looked down at my hand and I caught a glimpse of like all of the yummy like veins in my hands, and I was just like, oh wow, my hands look so mannish right now. And in like loving defense of me, just like, no, you have such feminine hands, you're so pretty, like like you're so beautiful, blah blah, and like took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah.
And I did not examine either of those feelings at all.
Yeah.
Period. I was just like, not ever gonna think about why that made me feel icky, or no, we're not gonna think about that.
So the other thing that I think has like so much power in this conversation, I think for both of us, in addition to body, is hair.
Yeah.
Which is part of body, but specifically hair. So like I've had this very weird relationship with my hair for ages, where like I have like big, thick, red bedhead sexy hair.
Yeah. That is a very accurate description.
It has like garnered a lot of unwanted attention for me over the years, and also like sometimes it's something that makes me feel really confident, but
it can be very
I feel like
fetishized.
oftentimes like it wears me, and I have gone
Sure.
so many times in my life I have been like, I want it gone, like I
Yeah.
want to be me, and I don't want who me is to be defined by my hair, which sounds so
Yeah.
stupid, but it really sometimes it is.
Well, and I've literally witnessed men in your life who are supposed to be close to you, like
Right.
literally define you as a fetish because of
Right.
your red hair.
Correct.
Yeah. It's not in your head.
Yeah.
It's 100% a real
Yeah.
thing.
I have been on dates with a lot of men who have like specifically been like, I had this fucking coloring book or this poster or like this action figure or whatever when I was a kid that I was obsessed with. It looks just like you.
I want to throw up on them.
like a weird amount of men. So there have been honestly countless times in my life that I felt like the most empowering thing that I could do for myself would be like for it to be gone, like not as an attack or like an act of retaliation against my hair, but like that's
Sure.
just like I felt like my outside would match my inside if my hair was like just gone, like I didn't have it.
Yeah.
It was crazy short. And I've always been very aggressively talked down from that, whether it's like friends, family members, hairstylists. Like everyone has
Sure.
universally implied that I would like look like a monster. Like I would be like disgusting if I
I think
didn't
you
have
look
my hair.
so good.
Thank you.
You would look
And so I've
Quite good.
internalized like a lot of shit around like the fact that any value that I have as like an aesthetically even just like tolerable looking person is just because of my hair. So I have all kinds of weird hair baggage as it relates to gender.
That, considering the fact that you have Disney eyes. Like,
But I have
such good eyes.
Thank you. I never think about it that way. I feel like I have no bone structure in my face, and that my whole face and head will just like look weird and awful. Anyway, I didn't bring this up to talk me into it, but like
no, but I'm just saying.
But I do feel a lot better anytime that I have hair short enough that I feel like I can be versatile in my presentation.
Yeah,
because like, and this is just a me thing, but like if I have really long hair and I bind and I wear like a 3-piece suit and I don't wear makeup or like whatever, and I like boy up my brows, like if I still have like flowing long hair, to me that just completely underscores the illusion of like wearing a boy hat that day,
right?
In terms of my own gender presentation. And but like if it's shorter and you can kind of like part it in certain ways where suddenly it doesn't, like that, to me there's a lot of power in that. So anyway, this is my segue into like, what the fuck does hair have to do with gender?
Hair has so much to do with it, everywhere.
Yeah,
but we'll start with the head.
Yeah.
So like I have always, up until the last couple of years, I have long hair in the middle of my head and my hair shaved on my sides and the back. And that's new as of the last couple of years. Prior to that, I always had short hair, like short hair.
But you also were always on a hair journey.
I was always on a hair journey. I never found a good hairstylist that would do short hair for me that wouldn't make me look like Jamie Lee Curtis. And so I was always struggling with getting a queer like haircut.
Yeah.
That was very short. And then once I got this haircut, I was freed from the shackles of a hairstylist, and I was able to just shave my head like every couple of weeks. That's also a
quarantine thing, though, right?
No.
Oh.
Quarantine empowered me to have no like excuse left.
Oh, I see.
So I was allowed to do that all the time. But I had started shaving this like the sides and back on my own, and then I had during quarantine started trimming the middle part on my own as well, which that part shouldn't have done. Did some bad mistakes there.
Wavy hair hides it, or like wavy and curly.
It does. It helps. Yeah. It helps. But I've noticed that this haircut has given me more versatility than I thought it would, in terms of presentation. Like, I feel like when I have it to the side, like, that's like more femme to me. And when I have it like parted almost, like, or pushed back, like that, it feels very masculine, and I like it. My big journey with hair has been trying to come to terms with how I feel about all of the luscious Armenian body hair that I've been given.
I love this journey, though. I do.
Yeah. So I have just in terms of genetics with my Armenian heritage, and also a splash of PCOS to help it along, I do have quite a bit of facial hair. And my issue with it is that it only grows on one side of my face. So I don't feel validated by it so much. I just feel like I wish it could choose.
Sure.
You know, either don't be there or be there a lot.
Yeah.
Don't just be on the right side of my face. So I went to go look into, I saw one day somebody on TikTok saying how, you know, PCOS is like something that has made them feel like more connected to the non-binary like community, blah blah blah. And so I went to go look up more on that in like the community online of people with PCOS to see like what people are talking about in there, and I was immediately met with a lot of transphobia. And I left very quickly. I heel-toed right out of there.
Yeah.
So I haven't really looked into it that much.
The first, like, out, like, very out and proud, I think, non-binary person that I met, when that was sort of a new concept for me, has PCOS and, like, embraces it as, like, a part of being, like, intersex.
That's what I was looking into, and what I found were a lot of, unfortunately, intersex people saying that, like, they don't want any trans people to, like, to think that way because of gross transphobia.
Interesting.
Things. Yeah.
I
didn't like
I
it.
have not been exposed to transphobia from the intersex community.
To be fair, where I found this was on Reddit, so please, grain of salt. That is a community that probably breeds that kind of feeling. But it was the first thing I saw, and I got spooked, so I ran. Yeah.
I just, like, my first thought was, like, does it only grow on the right side because you always sleep on the left side?
I don't know. It's just always grown only on the right side. It's the same though. Like I have more armpit hair on the right side.
Huh.
I have more. Wow. I am also just realizing that all of my like lupus scarring is on the left side. So I wonder if there's anything that could possibly have to do with that. Like all of my like lesions that I've scarred all over time, they're like down my legs and like my back and stuff. It's all on the left side.
That's fascinating.
That could be some hocus pocus that I'm making up here, but
no,
maybe
I think that's like real hocus pocus.
Yeah,
though.
there could be.
You know, like shit that Western medicine ignores hocus pocus.
Yeah,
like, legitimate. Yeah.
Well, it does. You know, it like to my limited understanding, lupus can affect like you know, it affects like basically all the top layers of your skin, like deep into like the dermis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it does leave some like scarring that won't let facial hair or body hair grow through.
Lupus have something to do with hair? Isn't that part of like the weird
I mean,
bullshit?
It can cause hair loss, but like as a side effect, but it usually goes away when you're not having a flare up.
I apologize if I'm being ignorant, but I did think that there was some kind of like a folklore-y connection that you had made or pointed out
to
me
werewolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, not about hair.
Oh, okay.
When we have lesions, not the butterfly one, but the ones that show up on your body, they can be shaped like bite marks.
Oh.
And people with lupus are often photosensitive, so they don't like the sun can make them sick.
Oh, okay.
So people
That
in
seems more
like
like vampires though.
So there's some crossover, but there was already a very clear vampire disease, porphyria, which literally makes people like burn in the sun. Meanwhile, people with lupus would just start avoiding the sun, and they would be like have these bite marks, and they'd be, more importantly, like back then, especially without any sort of pain medicine available, they would just be howling in pain.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
From like all of the swelling and stuff. And then it would like periodically go away as well, which is a very like werewolfy folklore.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you. Sorry.
No,
for taking us down that path.
No worries. But I do wish it also was because we grew luscious facial hair.
That's what yeah.
It would be very helpful for me.
It would. Do you think you'd lean into it fully? Or do you think it would just kind of like come and go?
I think I would sometimes.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when I was feeling it, I would let it grow out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would shave it. It would be beautiful to have that choice.
Yeah.
I want to cry right now if I had that choice. But instead, I only have the same amount of facial hair as my 7th grade boyfriend, Kevin. Which is to say barely any.
That's fair. Wow. Well, I want that for you. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe life.
Maybe life.
Hormones in life will hit you.
Yeah.
Well, so I have seen a lot of people, regardless of how they identify, talk about how quarantine specifically has impacted their relationship with body hair.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. And it seems like women in general are maybe trending more towards embracing body hair, which I love.
That I love too.
And I don't want to say that that's inherently queer, you know.
No, I don't think it should be. I think
Yeah.
I would love if cis women, heterosexual cis women,
Yeah.
also embrace their body hair, because I think it's silly.
Yeah.
I think it's fine if you really genuinely don't like having it.
Yeah.
But I think that we have not had an appropriate amount of time to assess where that actually comes from.
Yes.
Because it's always been expected of us.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. I think like even through periods of my life where I felt fully straight cis, I have never like been on top of body hair because I grow like very light, wispy, very
Yeah.
blonde body hair. And also, like I mentioned earlier, I went through puberty so much later than everybody. So like, you know, like in gym class and stuff in high school, like all my friends were like, fuck, I have like leg stubble or whatever. And like I still really wasn't hitting puberty, so I still had like, you know, like blonde fuzzy leg hair
Yeah,
that
baby
like
hairs.
kids have.
Yeah.
And my leg hair didn't change from that pretty much at all. And then I didn't have any armpit hair. I didn't ever shave my armpits until like my sophomore year of college. I started getting armpit hair.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I can grow like semi-respectable armpit hair, and like I actually kind of like it.
I like it too.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's not like really like, you know, full, but like it's
No,
it's
but
not
it's
like
very
it's not
handsome.
embarrassing.
It's very
my
good looking.
my pit showing, I feel like, is
no.
not. And I get rid of it every once in a while. Honestly, mostly if I'm in a social situation, if I'm going to be in a social situation where I feel I just don't want people to notice
Yeah.
it. Like if my grandparents are visiting, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I just don't want to
you
like
don't want to have that
I don't want to
conversation.
complicate their lives, and like I know
Yeah.
it'll come back. But I do. That's been a nice part of like quarantine, and honestly just moving to Oregon. That's been a nice, cuz like I don't know, people are a lot looser with stuff like that here, and I've really appreciated that.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the last time I shaved my legs.
That's great.
Like maybe like when I got married.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
For me it's like why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like why? I do every so often.
Yeah.
One, mostly when I do laundry, because fresh sheets, shaved legs,
Yeah.
freshly lotioned,
It's, like,
shaved legs,
Decadent.
and you just get in there like a little
They're
cricket,
like, yeah.
and you just rub them together until you fall asleep humming.
It is a nice feeling.
So,
Yeah.
So for self-care purposes,
Yeah.
sometimes when I really feel like going high femme and dolling up, which is not too often, but
Yeah.
sometimes I do. But yeah, otherwise letting that go. And the I just have to make sure. I just have to ride a very special line, which is the am I not shaving because I'm depressed?
Yes.
Or am I not shaving
because I'm
of
empowered.
fuck-
Yeah. No, that's real.
I have to ride that line a little thin.
Yeah.
So that's just something to look out for. But
I
that's
love
more of
that,
an internal
yes.
question.
Yes.
Yeah. It's, more like, try looking at it from another way. Did you also use your mouthwash today? Did you
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
look for non-gendered bathing
And there
terms
you
to
go.
look out
Like
for.
hygiene standards to
Yeah.
shame yourself about. No, I think that's important. It's hard to divorce those things sometimes.
It is.
I love that.
See, we're not. We have different definitions of our non-binariness, but
Did we get
some-
more gay during quarantine, or did we just get so depressed that we gave up on hygiene?
No. I have tried to ask myself, like, especially when I was thinking about, like, the perception of others, like, would I still feel the way that I feel about gender if we weren't in such a gendered society? And I racked my brain over that for so long until I realized that it is absolutely an unanswerable question.
Yeah.
Because we have known no other society.
Yeah.
Like, we would never know. So, like, why am I asking?
I had a funny conversation with my mom. So, my mom is great.
Yeah.
Maybe more liberal than leftist, but like,
Sure.
you know. And she tries.
Yeah.
Usually the first time you have a conversation with her about something, she doesn't get it, and then she'll come back and be like, I did a lot of reading, and like, I think I get it. It's great.
That is very special.
So when I was growing up, I just like absolutely idolized her and adored her and just like wanted to be her, and that's not healthy. But but she was like very much a tomboy and like very sporty, and like always talked to me about how like she was teased in high school and stuff because like she wasn't like, not that she wasn't feminine enough, because she's like very like traditionally pretty and like modeled, but like just that she wasn't maybe subscribing to like what felt like conventional feminine behaviors. Like she was always like getting in fights and like so you know, I grew up very much like that's like a standard for femininity that like I would aspire to, is like this kind of like gritty tomboy feminine.
Yeah.
Boobless
femininity.
And I was having a conversation with her, it's got to be like 5 years ago now, and I think we were just, you know, we were talking a little bit about the concept of being like non-binary or like they pronouns. And I remember she said to me like, I guess I just don't really understand why pronouns matter so much to somebody that they would need to change them, because like, I mean, I use like she, her pronouns because I'm a woman, but like I don't feel any different than a man. And like she like basically like expressed this whole sort of like very non-binary thing. I didn't like, you know, like try to rock her world with it or whatever, but it was like, yeah, okay, mom. Like, yeah. She's just like, I mean, I wake up every day and I don't look in the mirror and see a woman. I like see a person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like this whole kind of
right
thing that had the potential to be problematic, but like knowing her, and I just kind of feel like if you were to have picked at that a little bit, or if she was in a different society, like
that might come unraveled. Yeah.
And I really loved that.
I do too.
For
I like
her.
that a lot.
So I never like said anything to her about it, but I was just like, oh, Mom, I really think that you like are queer on some level. Yeah. I think, in a different society, like you probably would not have been.
Yeah.
She's got like very like Arya Stark vibes is the other thing too.
Yeah.
Like she like ran out and joined the military.
Killed a man.
And she's killed a man and like, you know, it's fine. But yeah, I love that for her, and I found that very validating.
Yeah.
And also I didn't push it.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel very freed by this conversation. I do. It feels really good. I know you like, even though stuff we talked about previously, like it's just really good to talk about. And to find like the places where we like land together, and then the places where we diverge, I think is also really cool.
It scared me when we started diverging. Not anymore.
Good.
But like at first it did. At first I felt like us not having the same journey was invalidating for me.
I'm wondering, have you ever, because I've heard people talk about what you talked about, which is feeling genderless but putting on gendered hats for fun and presentation. Have you thought about the word like agender for yourself, or does that not totally feel right?
I think on some level it feels right, but like not a level where I feel like I need to say it to people.
Sure.
I think it helps me contextualize myself.
Sure.
And I think I accidentally like invented that term at some point earlier in this conversation.
Yeah.
Where I was like, it's like agender. That's probably closer to authentic for me. Because realizing that like, and I have said this, I think, in various forms of media, realizing that burlesque feels like drag for me was like a huge moment.
Yeah.
Like,
you have said that before.
Yeah. And I honestly feel like there's this whole process of like putting on a ton of makeup and like getting ultra high femme. And I talk to other performers and it feels like a very enhanced version of themselves. Like this persona that they put on, you know, their stage name and all that is just like the idealized version of themselves, like an empowered version of themselves. And when I thought about it that way, I found that I was like having a lot of stage fright and like feeling very self-conscious and weird. And then when it became very much about like I'm doing like high femme drag, like it was like fun and character play, and like I enjoyed the makeup so much more, and like I didn't feel weird and garish when I looked at myself in the mirror. Like I was just like, this was like,
that is incredible how much like just changing your thought process around something can change how you feel about it.
Yeah.
God,
and I
our
think
brains are weird.
That's probably the beginning of me having like some sort of agender or like gender neutral kind of like feelings.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Cool.
Listeners, we're still waiting on your answer. If you could get back to us, please.
Did you mail it to us?
We're still
Our
waiting.
P.O. box.
Oh my God. We do not have a P.O. box.
P.O.
Do
box
not.
963. New York City.
Yeah, send it to Stick Stickly,
New
please.
York State.
10108.
Yeah.
You can also send your Femsplain questions to
Scruff
Chicago,
McGruff.
Illinois, 60652.
So, have we talked about this?
What? Scruff
First of all, good for us for knowing those addresses. I don't know my own husband's phone number.
No.
It was just addressed to Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah,
like
no
Santa
street
Claus,
address.
New York, North Pole.
I don't
like-
think that went anywhere. I don't think it went.
literally had to.
I don't know that it did. I think that Scruff McGruff was a scam because there's no street address. What?
Right.
It's just
Just
Chicago,
yeah.
Illinois. The only Scruff McGruff in Chicago, Illinois.
I have a
and
ton of questions. I mean, I believe that there weren't other Scruff McGruffs, but
that the post office just knows where to bring that.
Listeners, if you know anything about that,
Yeah. Who's from Chicago that we can ask? I don't know.
I don't. Oh,
Not that I trust that people from Chicago know.
Yeah, let's ask more.
No. But yeah, at least Stick Stickly had a street address
Wow.
or a P.O. box. But still,
Wow,
that's a
that
place.
PO box must have been full.
Yeah. I sent letters to Stick Stickly.
Well, and they had that one thing where it was like send a stick.
Yeah. I sent sticks. Sent a lot of sticks. I used to make Stick Sticklies. Stick Stickly was way better than Face. Face was an abomination.
It was a totally different audience.
I know, but
Face
like,
was very comforting for children. Like he really talked right to you. I also, you know what? I don't feel like I should gender Face. They talked right to you.
I feel like there were multiple faces. Didn't Face have like a whole family?
Oh, their face here. No, it was one face.
There were
He was
other
just sort
faces.
of transformative.
And then didn't Face have a child? Am I making this up,
I mean,
listeners? That Face had like a wife and
listeners
kids?
aren't going to help you. I think that you are making this up.
I might be. Face is a distant memory for me. But I feel like there was a family involved. That they got introduced later on.
I mean, I'll allow for that because you probably watched it longer than I did because you had a younger sibling.
Yes, because I had a younger sibling, everybody. not because I just really wanted to keep up on my stories.
My stories.
My stories.
I feel like this is wrapping up.
I feel like it might be. Do you have any final thoughts?
I guess my final thought is that for me, queerness and sexuality has been such like an ongoing journey of discovery and awareness and like self-examination in hindsight. And so I think that I find comfort in the idea that like I might have arrived at a decision or arrived at an identity, but all evidence to the contrary. Like,
Yeah.
why, if I feel different than I did a year ago, or things make more sense to me than they did a year ago, like, who's to say that they won't feel that way and also be unrecognizable a year from now?
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to allow for that. And I want the listener, the singular listener, to also, like, allow for that.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
For feeling different 5 years from now, or like 10 years from now, or tomorrow,
Yeah.
without invalidating the experience you're having today.
I love that. I think that is a perfect note to end on, like, truthfully. I think we all need that advice. All right. Well, what are we going to do after this?
Turn on the AC because we turned it off for the volume and it is hot.
I know.
And
I
like,
can smell myself right now. It is bad.
I can smell myself if I like try.
Try harder, Avalon. Really sniff.
I am.
All right. Well, we're gonna go turn on the AC and continue hanging out together because
and we're gonna go back and hang out with Francis.
Yeah, we are gonna hang out with Francis. All right. Well, bye.
Oh, Diana.
What?
The next episode that we record will be far apart again.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
You can find all of our Femsplained content either on patreon.com/Femsplained, Twitter, you can find us at FemsplainedCast, Instagram, you can find us at Femsplained Podcast, and you can check out superdillon.com/Femsplained to find the guest form and all of the different places where you can listen and connect with us.
Awesome. You can find and follow me, Avalon, at @_catattack on both Twitter and Twitch.
And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, and all the places at SuperDillon. And that is DILLIN.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Bye.
Bye.